Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian Fitz, and today we're going to go over special operations pay. And, it's a question I was asked a lot while I was in the service, and I didn't always tell people about how much I made. There's different reasons for that, whether I just didn't want someone to know or, maybe there was admin guys trying to find ways to take money from us. But today we're going to jump into that topic. So if you stick around, at the end I'll give you some tables that will explain it. But in order for you to understand, you got to understand a little bit more about what even the term special operations is. So if you're a civilian and you're thinking about joining the military and entering special operations, or if you're in the military and you're thinking about going over to the other side, you might want to stick around because this is going to be eye-opening. The first thing I want to do is I want to kind of clear up what special operations forces means, because there's a lot of confusion about that, because someone can say there's special operations and special forces. Someone can say, they're naval special warfare and special operations. So special operations isn't one particular unit. That's kind of a catch-all for types of units with missions that fall under a special operations mission. And so there are different jobs in the military in different branches that fall under that. So for example, in the Army, your Green Beret, and that would be like unconventional warfare, or your SEALs in the Navy, where they're doing different types of maritime missions. Navy EOD, like myself, where you're focused on bomb disposal, underwater mines, but we do mixed gas diving, halo, free fall. We do direct action missions with Navy SEALs, as well as special forces. Or whether you're in the Air Force and you're in special operations like a combat controller, CCT, or pararescueman, which those guys dive as well. Marine Raiders, they're doing recon, direct action. Those are demo guys that dive and jump. And then there's a few outliers out there that aren't really considered special operations in the community, but sometimes they do augment, such as dive, depending on which unit they're in, and some other ones that sorry if I failed to mention you. But the point of this is to say is that special operations is a generic term. So when you hear that, that's not going to necessarily tell you exactly what the person's job was within special operations. So now that we have that figured out, and the reason why I brought that up is because a lot of those different units, they get pays in the same type of work because they work together in missions that require the same skills, so they're going to be getting the same pay. So discussing your pay, in the U.S. military is kind of a no-no, and a lot of people have been begging me to break it down for them. So, like joining the ranks of like EOD or SEALs or Green Beret or Marine Raiders, this is going to be something akin to your most elite, like a professional athlete, whether it be basketball, football, baseball. Like, the numbers are really small about who actually makes it. The attrition ratios are so high, and the physical requirements are on that same scale. However, you're not playing a game. You're playing a game for keeps, a life or death, right? So the amount of folks that actually make it through to get these pays isn't that high, but it is attainable with the right mindset. And that's why you're going to keep coming back to this channel, because I'm going to give you tips on that. So, obviously, professional athletes make a lot more money than anybody in the military. And so, you might be discouraged if you're somebody of that mold and you want to go in that direction. Why, you're not going to join the military because you're chasing your dreams. But just remember, it's hard. It's hard to get through to those things, and that's why those guys get paid a lot of money. However, we don't get paid chump change either, so I'm going to break that down to you. We'll cover base pays, we'll cover special pays like mixed gas, halo, and our CSRBs for certain jobs, which is your bonuses, which can be really big and tax-free depending on where you're at, and benefits like VA loans and other things. So let's jump in. And I'm gonna look at my notes as I'm talking to you, because there's a lot of information that I want to go through. So let's start with the base pay. And this is something you're going to get across the board. Doesn't matter if you're SOFR or not, you're going to get your base pay, right? And so we just had a pay raise. Every year the NDAA, there's usually a small raise. It fluctuates. I think it was 4.5 this year, and so plus there was more for the lower ranks. It was like a 10% increase at the lower ranks. So we're going to use E7 as our imaginary person with 10 years. So right in the middle of a 20-year career, you're an E7, and most likely if you do a 20-year career in special operations, you're going to spend most of your time as an E7 actually, because you make rank fast, but you stay in that rank for a while because the upper ends are pretty closed up. So that's probably the average rank you're going to be for the time that you're in. So for right now, an E7 makes $4,644 a month, and that's before taxes in 2025, and that's up from $465 last year. So then you can go with BAH from any state. Every state's going to be different. Like I'm hanging out in Hawaii right now. That's like $4,000 for BAH. But let's go to something like common average, which is about 2,700. Depends on where your unit is located, but I'll just use a number like 2,700, right? Or let's go with 2,776 because that's what I pulled up for a state. And then you'll have a little bit of a hike for your dependents, 5.4%. And then you'll get BAS sustenance, which is food, and everybody gets that, which is 460. Now, if you have a bunch of kids, you're going to get probably a little bit more, but it does cap out at a certain point. I think it's like after 3 kids or something. Don't quote me on that. That's your basic startup. You're in the military and you're getting paid, right? So now we're going to start talking about the differences between those base pay and like what you would get in the special operations community. So here's the advantage, right? The first thing is going to be SDAP, right? Special duty assignment pay. So this is a pay. This is what we call pro pay in the military. It's your pay for your professional skill, whether that's being a SEAL, whether that's being combat control, or whether that's being a Green Beret or EOD, right? So each skill has a different SDAP level. It's kind of on a tiered system, and I think SDAP 6 is the highest. That's what Navy EOD. That's what my ordinance. That's what Navy EOD got. They got I think they got level 6, which at the time I was in, level 6 was about $450. So that's $450 just for being an EOD tech, okay, and graduating EOD school. So then when you graduate wherever your school, and every pipeline is different for these different soft community. Some of the schools can be on the front end or the back end. It just depends on school, and sometimes that changes based on manning and timing and just current events of what's going on. Maybe the schoolhouse is closed for renovations or something. So things change, but in general the pipelines kind of follow the same order. Some of the harder stuff is at first to kind of weed everybody out. But let's just talk about some of the skill sets that you're going to gain, right? So a static line jumper would be $150 a month, but like for me, I was Halo, so it was $225. You don't get them both; you get one or the other depending on what you are, but you do go to static line before Halo, so you'll get that. And in the Army, sometimes that it's a profile, like you have to be in a unit that's jumping. In the Navy, you just had to meet for me, we just had to meet our jump requirements, quarterly jump requirements. It wasn't really a unit specific because every one of our units maintains the capability. And, the Air Force is going to be a little bit different. Marines will be a little bit different on how they handle that. But in general, if you're in the unit and you're in a kind of a green unit, you're ready to go. You're jump qualified. You're ready to go. You're getting paid. So you get your Halo 225. So scuba pay is $215 monthly, whether you're a SEAL or EOD. And you get that money as soon as you breathe your first breath in training, your first dive that you do. And what does that air taste like? It tastes like $215. So everybody gets that. That's a diver or goes through a dive program, regular scuba. And then if you're a specialty diver like Navy EOD has, we're mixed gas, so we're doing heliox and nitrox. Dive pay is $340 monthly, so it's a little bit higher. Demo pay, of course, EOD, and almost every unit gets demo pay, whether you're Green Beret or Air Force or Marine Raider, because you're going to be touching demolition. It's $200 monthly. I always thought we should get more because that's our specialty, but I guess it's kind of covered in the SDAP. So language pay will kind of depend on what unit you're in. All the special operations units can get classes in language school, depending on their mission. And there's more seats for different units, and obviously the special forces, because the type of work they do, hearts and minds in different countries, they get the majority of the seats at the language school. But language pay can go like between 100 to 1,000 monthly, depending on how fluent you are, and how many languages you actually speak. I think you can do up to 3 languages. Like, may only speak 1 language, so, or actually 2, English and then 1 other language. So it just depends on, how advanced you are and how much you can get paid there. So we'll put that in there, but not the full amount. So we'll average it out for about 300. Then there's hostile fire and imminent danger pay, which is $225 a month, and that's when you're in country, right? So you're not going to have that all the time, and that's going to fluctuate. I'll probably do some kind of average out in the tables on that, based on how many deployments a person would get, like, on average, between that time frame. So that covers like most of the the special pays, right? So you're talking about an E7 special operations guy on a dive team. His base is going to be about 4,644. His BAH is going to be $2,700. His sustenance will be 460. His SDAP could be average out to 375. His scuba can be $215. His static line $150. His demo $200. His language $300. And so that's over $9,000 monthly. So Navy EOD swaps scuba for mixed gas, and their SDAP is 450. So it kind of averages out if they didn't have a language or something like that. So $9,000 monthly, and that's pretty good, right? So then we're going to talk a little bit more about retention bonus and some other cash that you're going to get. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe and that like button while I'm calculating all this for you. Now that you're in this soft world, your skill has cost the military a lot of money to train you, right? They've put in over $1 million into your training, and they want to keep you around. So your retention bonus is going to be pretty high. It's like a signing bonus, right? It's going to come with some requirements, such as a certain amount of time that you're going to need to give up. In general, let's say you're an E7 and you've got all that pay and the bonus is coming around the corner. It's going to depend on your specific special operations background. So for me, when I was in RCSRB for Navy EOD at the time for a Master Tech, which was a 5337, was the highest retention bonus in the military at the time. It was $120,000 for 5 years. So you can take that and you can divide that amount by the years, divide that by 12, and then add that to your your yearly salary during that time. So for $120,000, 5 years, that's $24,000 yearly. So that's roughly $2,000 monthly, and that's a lot of money, especially if you do it in a combat zone. That's tax-free. And usually your service guys will try to find a way to line your deployments up with that. It's not always possible, but if you can get out and do it like that, then that's big time, man. That's a lot of money you're going to save. So you've got that going on, and then on top of that, you have your actual deployment, which during your deployment you're going to be getting per diem. Per diem is really good. On average, if you do a 6-month tour, it doesn't even have to be like in hostile environment, but let's say it's you're in Japan and you're on per diem because you're outside your duty station, and it's like something like $150 a day. On average, that's about $13,500 per year. So usually do at least one deployment a year, depending on your unit. So then also during that time, you're going to have separation pay. You're away from your family because your family is going to be located if you're married, and that separation pay will give you $250 a month of separation pay. So that gives you about $1,500 a month for 6 months, which is about $750 for the yearly average per year. And then if you're in the combat zone, you're going to get combat zone pay, which is $225 a month, and that's about $1,300 a year. That's not a lot of money for combat, but you're getting all these other things on top of it, so it does add up. So here's the deal: there are other things besides these pays. Now, those pays all sound great. Not everybody gets the same thing. Not everybody's an E7. Some people are E6. Some people are E8. Some people are married. Some people are not. You know, you're not going to get a calculator for just everything. But I'm giving you some examples of about how much it could be on average. But there are ways to squeak out a little bit more depending on timing and, you know, which units or which skills you have. And that, you know, that's one of the things the special operation guys, they like going to schools. They like adding those skills because they do pay, and they do help out, right? So now things that'll pay off in kind of the long term is things that I haven't mentioned, like your VA loan. You know, your VA loan can save you so much money, and I'm going to do a separate video about that. But let's just say, you know, if you do get a 30-year VA loan, the savings can be something like $7,000 yearly. So you could add that, you know, if you were to buy a house with a VA loan, you could add that to your salary as, you know, money that you're making. And there's some other things like school, GI Bill, and tuition I haven't covered, but, you know, I'll cover that in a separate video as well. So how much is it, you know, when we get to the final number here, and where are we sitting at, right? So I'll put the table here at the end and I'll let you see it, but overall we're looking at around, give or take, $152,000 a year before taxes. And then with taxes, because there's a lot of tax-free benefits, you're looking at $140,000 a year. I think as Navy EOD, it was a little bit higher. But you know, there could be one like Pararescue or CCT that I don't know exactly, you know, every pay that they're getting. But I think those guys are as high as Navy EOD. They're pretty close. And then I think SEALs and Green Beret are about even as well. So that's what you're going to get, you know, and that, like I said, doesn't include all the other benefits when it comes to a VA loan savings, the medical, the dental, and I haven't included any of that stuff, which, you know, we could calculate that too. So I'm going to say about $150,000 for an E7 is about right. And I'm going to say also that when I went into the federal service as my baseline to prove that that was my compensation level so that I can get paid a higher level when I went into the federal service, because they will try to bring you in the federal service at the lowest amount possible, and sometimes they'll try to base that off your base pay. But if you can prove that the job you're going into relates to the job you had with all your special pays, they can use that. For example, jumping wasn't included, right, when I went into federal service, but me being a bomb tech was, so that was all included, and I was able to include that in my package, which landed me close to an SES level salary coming straight out of the military after a 20-year career. And we'll talk more about that on another video in the future, but for now, that's the breakdown of special operations pay. Now, here's the key takeaway. It's a lot of money, and you can do a lot with it. And what you do with it is more important than getting it, how you save it. And I'm going to have some things at the channel that are going to help you with that. If you're joining special operations for the money, that's not a good idea, because money is not going to get you through that tough grind. You got to want it. You got to desire it. It's got to be more than money. I wasn't thinking about money when I joined the Navy EOD. I just wanted to have a better life, and I wanted to push myself to my highest limits. It was just about being my best self. The money came later. It didn't all come at once. You know, these things, they start trickling in, right? But just so you know, it's decent pay. When you look at the civilian sector, it's competitive. However, a person that has gone through all that training and all those skills is worth a lot of money. Talk about contracts, and especially overseas contracts. There's no shortage of bomb tech jobs, as well as other special operation jobs. So the guys in these communities generally find good work, and they do have that tugging on them, and the quality of life is a little bit different. It's more stable for the family. So there are pros and cons. Definitely, if you're a single guy, it's definitely great. You know, I'm not saying it's bad for married guys, but it's a little bit tougher. But yeah, I mean, if it's what you want to do, now you know the inside hack on how much money you're going to be looking. If you think that's worth it or not, that's going to be up to you. I don't know, but please do me a favor. If you can like, share, and subscribe, come back to my channel. I'm going to keep giving out more information like this, and help you guys make those decisions in your career paths. I also have a phone number that you can call, and you can book a free phone call. I'll do 30 minutes, and then if you like what you hear, or if you want more support after that, we can discuss. But for now, I'm Brian Fitz. This is my channel, and do me a favor, guys. Move with a purpose.